Hey everybody, it's Jill at the Pink Nib, back to talk to you more about fountain pens and all things girly and fun that we can do with girly pink fountain pens. I've got our mascot here today. This is Frodo. He's white, fluffy, and adorable, so he's going to help us out. Today we're talking about nib sizes. So let's get started. There are two different worlds of nib sizes. There's the Eastern and the Western sizing system. They'll range from extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and italic calligraphy go on from there. So let's get started with Pilot. So Pilot is going to be on your Eastern sizing system. Their sizes are smaller than normal. So let's see here. For example, I think the smallest I've got is a fine in Pilot because it is so itty bitty. And that is a Pilot fine nib right there. Look how skinny that is. And I have that in my Firmo. And this is my everyday carry it with me pen, because it is so fine that it writes on regular paper pretty well without having to worry about smearing and things like that. So it is an itty bitty pen, very, very fine tip. The next size in Pilot in Eastern sizing is a medium nib. And you can see it goes quite a bit more wide, still very comfortable size to write with. So a medium Pilot nib is a little bit bigger, but still very comfortable. And this is kind of a dirty nib, but that should give you an idea of a medium-sized nib. As you can see, they're just getting a teeny bit wider. They're still very tiny. All right, now I don't have a broad in Pilot, but I do have a calligraphy nib. And I have that in the Pilot Prera. See how fat that is? You can see the line, very wide line at the top there. And this is a calligraphy nib here. So you can see they get progressively quite a bit wider. This one is really fun for writing invitations or poetry or, you know, anything you want to get really creative with. All right. Another name brand I do have in a broad is Twisby, TWSBI. So I can show you a broad nib. There's a broad nib. And it's got kind of that ball on the end that makes it very easy to write with, very smooth. The thinner the nib, the more feedback or scratchiness you're gonna get. So the fatter, the smoother. And this writes like glass. This broad nib here writes just beautifully, very smooth, very little scratchiness. All right, so let's go to Lamy. Let's go to Lamy. And we'll start with the extra fine. Again, kind of a dirty nib, but teeny tiny little point there. If you get extra fine in some of these nibs, they can poke through the paper. So that's a Lamy extra fine. And I have it on the same page so you can see that the Pilot extra fine, the Pilot fine and the extra fine in Lamy are pretty similar. I'd say that the Pilot fine is still even smaller. And those are similar inks. I only so far have Pilot inks, so this should all be comparable. I do have, this is diamine. I think that's diamine. Yeah, that's diamine, and the Kaweco are diamine, but the rest are Pilot ink, so they all should be the same slipperiness. All right, a fine. We had an extra fine Lamy. Let's do a fine Lamy. Gets a little bit bigger. Okay. And then I have a Lamy 1.1. which is past broad, and it is wide. Again, gorgeous, really fun pen to use for writing in invitations and things like that. So there's the extra fine, the fine, and the 1.1. You can see they get bigger. Some extras that I had just on hand is an Levenger fine. That's a Western fine. You can see it's pretty fat. I mean, that's a medium anywhere else. And a Platinum fine. You can see how thin it is comparatively. And then a Kaweco fine. So if you're looking at these different name brands, this might give you an idea of what nib size you might want. All right? All right, guys. Well, I hope you have fun choosing your first fountain pen. I hope it's a success. Give it some time, practice with it, don't be afraid, and just dive in there. I mean, the worst that can happen is you get a little ink on your hands. It's a lot of fun. And the more broad the nib, the smoother it's going to be. Sometimes the fine point will surprise you and just be buttery smooth. And the more you use your pen, the longer you use your pen, it becomes yours. the nib adjusts over time and just becomes your pen. And that's why us fountain pen nuts tend to be very attached to our fountain pens. So you'll have your favorites and they'll become kind of your babies, your collection. And I look forward to hearing back about you and your collections and how you are coming along with your fountain pen adventure. So we're signing off for tonight from the pink nib, and I hope to hear from you soon. Let me know how you're doing, guys.